And joining us now in studio to discuss the weight loss drug Ozempic and Wegovy is Dr. David Shaker. He's a board-certified internist with the Shaker Medical Group. Now, the FDA says the active ingredient in Ozempic and Wegovy is no longer in shortage, so the department has given notice to stop production of generics. Now, a trade group for the generic manufacturers is actually suing, claiming 1.2 million people are being treated with these particular medications. So kind of jumping into that, what are your expectations with this sort of legal action?
So in the U.S., we have a great system where if we have a drug shortage that's still on patent, as in it's just the drug company that produced it that can make it, what happens is other companies then can go out and produce it because it fills the need for the rest of the population. Now, over the last 6 months or so, the transition has been made, and the FDA is saying that there is enough supply. The companies are saying that there is enough supply to meet the need and the demand that's out there. So then the secondary producers are being asked to no longer produce it. The legal issues are going to be tied up for a while, but most of the companies are putting out enough medication where, like I said, it fits the rest of the population.
And in terms of the impact on consumers, what could happen to the price if generics do go away?
If the generics go away, then they're going to go back to the original pricing. It is quite high. There are some coupons and some rebates for patients. And then there's a lot of coverage as well for both of the major medication groupings. They're both GLP-1s. One has a second molecule in it that makes it a little bit more effective. But overall, so long as you meet the criteria for it, a lot of insurance companies are covering it, which is a big value add.
Now, taking a step back, first I want to get a sense of what GLP medications are. And then secondly, I understand that the on-brand drugs go through a rigorous FDA approval process, and it's not quite the same for these generics. So we'd just love to get a sense of what the drug class even does, and then, should people be concerned if they're not using the branded
Sure, I'll piece me the question. So essentially the GLP is a molecule that fits with a receptor, and the receptor is found in multiple places within the body, and that's what dictates where the effect is going to be. The majority of it originally was assumed to be in the gut, but they found that the receptors are in other places. It works in the kidney, it works in the brain, it works in the heart, it works in the liver. And so over time, you're getting reduced of a negative effect. As far as the safety and FDA approval of the general medication or the on-brand medication, it's true. It goes through a very strict FDA approval process. There's a lot of testing and research that goes into it. It's made in appropriate labs versus the generic or the compounds, which you really don't know where you're getting it from. It may be imported overseas. There is a very heavy financial consideration that goes into it. People are making money off it. So it creates the room for bad actors, and I'm not in any way saying that the compounded is bad. I can say anecdotally, the patients that I've seen the majority of severe side effects were mainly in the patients that were using the compounded off-brand medication. That's not a standard overall. That's just something that I've seen in my hospital and clinic experience.
And taking a step back towards the lawsuit, what do you expect to happen there?
I'd anticipate that the drug companies will likely win out in the long run. I have no legal insight to say, but when this happens in the past, so long as there's enough supply to meet the demand in the market, that generally the drug companies would win over. Also, the drug companies are going into high gear. They know that there is a lot of value in this for patients, so they're putting resources towards building more factories, more supply for the rest of the community.
Now, kind of taking a step back to your patients, what are the benefits and how is this approach used to help, with lifestyle changes and some of the other effects of it? Because it seems like it's just everywhere you look, this drug, everybody's talking about it.
So this medication, essentially, if you have either obesity or diabetes, or obesity with a secondary risk factor, that's usually blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, sleep apnea, cardiac disease, kidney disease, then you do qualify for the medication. It works by reducing food impulse, reducing the craving, almost what we call the hedonistic impulse to go out and to continue eating our hyperpalatable processed foods. And by reducing that, you then reduce the production of high sugars in the system. You're healthier overall when you're not consuming these bad foods. And so the medication works in tandem with your diet and your exercise. It makes people who are putting forth good effort for diet and exercise a lot more successful. And that's how you're coming out with the positive effects.
It does sound great, but it also makes me wonder, what are the potential side effects here?
Sure, and I'd ask you the question first, and I'd say, when a doctor says to you, hey, I want you to start this medication, what's your first question? Your first question is, well, what are the side effects? And I would point that that's a mistake on the doctor's side. I should be phrasing the severity of the disease before I present to you the side effects. So what are the side effects of diabetes and obesity? Well, you're gonna get high blood pressure, you're gonna get cardiac disease, you're gonna get strokes, you're going to get higher risk of cancer with this diagnosis. Now then, and only then after I've expressed that to you and you understand it, can I say, okay, well now here are the side effects of the medication. The majority of the side effects are going to be GI or gastrointestinal, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, constipation, abdominal pain, still leaning in this direction. You can get gallstones in the gallbladder, pancreatitis, and there's a very rare, mainly in the research reports, about thyroid cancer, but it's not seen commonly in the field or in the community. So when you compare the risk and the benefit of the medication, it's overwhelmingly leaning towards the benefit.
Yeah, it sounds like this is certainly, when you say risk and benefit, something that you really have to work through with your doctor to figure out, what is the current status, can I, through my own efforts, maybe get a certain way there, and if not, what's the benefits of using like a catalyst of this medication?
Sure.
So could you share in your practice some of the cases where it's gone great, and then maybe some instances where you tried it with a patient, but for whatever reason, they weren't a great candidate for that approach?
I want to start so I can tailor my approach with the negatives. I've got a patient who reached out to me recently and said, Doc, can I have the medication again? And the reason he's saying again is because when he tried it the first time around, he wasn't consistent with it, and he was not consistent with any diet or any exercise. So what ended up happening is he was exposed to all side effect with no benefit. Now that's not a patient I want to rediscover the medication with. Flip that. If I have a patient who's coming in who has obesity for a long period of time, may have a secondary risk factor and wants to try the medication, and is also adamant about exercise, adamant about diet choice, adamant about food selection, now I have a patient who I know if I give the medication, the risk and reward will be there and the benefit will far outweigh the risk.
Lots to explore there. So fascinating. I mean, everywhere you look, it seems like people are having benefits with this approach, but it's important to understand every individual has different needs, and really a conversation that you have to have with your doctor. So
I advise very strongly that before anyone takes what I'm saying to heart, have the conversation with your doctor, understand both factions, and that's the disease state as well as the medication, how it may or may not benefit you.
Well, we really appreciate you coming in this morning. Dr. David Shaker, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, guys.